What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ladies Who Bronche, the podcast where we talk about all the things you're afraid to talk about at the dinner table, but at the brunch table, anything goes. I'm your host, Julissa Contreras, and today I am super, super, super excited to have our guest because she is someone who I met theatrically first and got to see shine and actually brought some of my words to life for a festival years ago. I want to say it was like 2018, 2019. It was New York Madness. And I remember just feeling her energy and spirit and being like, wow, she's really a real one. And from then on, I've had the opportunity to work with her and see her be a presence, very, very strong presence in the theater community, and just finding a way to always meet the intersections, not just of creating art, but how the art can impact community and how we can surface conversations that are very much needed. And I'm excited to hear more today about what she has going on in a completely new intersection and industry. So, Dolores, tell us, who the fuck are you?
That was so lovely. I have to say, this is my first time being a guest on a podcast. So, like, hearing someone,
Hey.
yes. Well, one time, but it was like with other people. But this is my first one-to-one conversation. Just to hear that back, it was lovely. Who the fuck am I? Wow, a lot of things. I'm the product of many hands. I am the true definition of it takes a village to raise a child. I am from Niagara Falls, New York. It is a place. People live there.
It got beautiful waterfall. It's beautiful water.
Beautiful water, beautiful gowns. I'm Puerto Rican and Black. Very proud of that. My Afro-Latinidad, extra on the Afro. I am an artist, creator, a sister, a daughter, an auntie to many. I'm feeling very much in my auntie-ness these days as they're growing up and needing advice and all that jazz. So I'm happy to be that. I am a mindful stoner, a business owner, cannapreneur, I like to call it, and a maker. I love to create community. I love to create third spaces for Black and Brown people to be our full authentic selves. That is my mission across all lanes, whether it's a corporate setting, a theatrical setting, wherever it is. It's like, how can we make this safe, brave? How can we make this safe feel like it's for us by us? So that's who I am
Yes, and
today.
I mean, like, you're about it. Like, I feel really grateful to have witnessed this and can verify, like, absolutely, that intention that you carry in community is present. And there was an event that you all had put together, and I can't remember the name of the beautiful piece that was I wanna say a pilot pitch.
You're talking about Journey with the Ancestors that we
Journey with
did.
the Ancestors. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was such a beautiful experience to hear that reading come to life, but also watching you in the room, like seeing you when you're on go mode, when you're really working in the moment was really beautiful. And I remember walking away that night being like, I was there with Guadalis and I was like, yo, this is really special. Like what they have going on here in this community is very, very special. And it was evident in that space. And so, yeah, I think that who you are is exactly who you say you are, and not everybody can say that.
Thank you. Thank you. I pride myself on that. And shout out to Brandon Homer who wrote that beautiful piece and booked a gig and he's in the pit now. So but I'm looking forward to when he brings it back, like works on it some more. Because it's a very special pilot. But yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bringing in all the themes that you're talking about, right? The things and the stories that our communities need more access to, and for others want to see that representation of the ways in which they are stepping into their connection to spirituality or to
Yeah.
ancestry in a particular way,
Yeah.
which is awesome. But let's move it back to you for a little bit because we are going to get into our brunch questions. And I want to know, what is your favorite brunch plate and what are you drinking with this meal?
Yeah. Okay. So my body's weird. Sometimes I can enjoy eggs and sometimes I cannot. So when my body is
Mm,
accepting eggs, I love a huevos rancheros. I just love it. It's
mm.
perfect. When my body is not accepting eggs, just give me a pancake. Like, give me a blueberry pancake, lot of syrup, and I'm very happy. And a cup of coffee. I'm a coffee girl. I love a latte. I love all of that. Cappuccino, cortado, whatever you want to make it, just give it to me. I love it. But when I'm feeling a little bougie, I'll have a red sangria.
When I first started my early brunching days, when I thought I
Yeah.
was that girl, going out
Yes.
to brunch almost every weekend. There was this place in the Bronx called Havana Cafe that had
Did they do
like
the
a
pictures?
unlimited special. Say that again?
Did they do the pictures of sangria? It sounds familiar. I feel like I might have been there.
So they did unlimited, and so they would bring you pictures because they were like, "Yeah, it's unlimited, so, like, we can give you pictures at a time." But when they weren't, because they had 2 locations, they're now down to 1, but the girls would come around so fast. You would, like, take maybe 3 sips, and they were like, "Oh, this is about a quarter." Pour, pour, pour. I have had many, many happy, like, early bedtimes because I had too many sangrias at Havana Cafe, and by 5 p.m., I was rolling into my house and taking a deep nap until the next morning.
It's my favorite. I'm a day party girl. I used to work in nightlife, but now I'm tired. I'm sleepy. So like, yeah, get me lit during the day. So by 5 o'clock, I'm with you. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, what is your favorite bochinche topic to discuss over a meal?
Oh, I'm a Gemini, so I love bochinche. We could talk about anything, but these days I love to hear the work bochinche because I like to start good trouble and like I like to start like inspiring my friends to rebel. So I'm like, so what's going on at work? Oh, they're treating you bad. Oh, you know that's illegal. Girl, you might have a case. I don't know. You might have to look into that. Like, keep records. You only send emails. Like, I'm giving all this advice, like trying to build a case, but I love the work bochinche. I also like if I'm at brunch with my family, I do love like my cousins, I love the family gossip. I love when my sister calls me and she's like, "Girl, your mother, da 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 da," and I'm like, "Yeah, what she do?" Like that gets me.
Because the minute the parent becomes yours, you know it's some shit about to
Yeah,
follow that sentence.
yeah, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. She's mine. She's mine. Tell me what happened."
Okay, so tell us, what was it like going out to eat when you were growing up?
Yeah, so not to get too deep into like my childhood and stuff, but I lived with different people throughout my childhood. So like I lived with my grandmother until I was like 7. I lived with my uncle until I was about 12 years old, and then my mother throughout until she sent me to college. So different experiences with different people. When I was living with my grandma, going out to eat was like McDonald's. Like every morning I remember the number. The number 4 was like a biscuit, egg and cheese, whatever, and a hash brown. That was it for me. My uncle, he used to work corrections, so he wasn't home often. So it was a lot of hot pockets in the house, a lot of raviolis, you know what I mean? Like a lot of Chef Boyardee. But on payday, he would take me and my cousin out to Pizza Hut. And that was lit for me. Remember when Pizza Hut was a restaurant with the salad
Yes,
bar and the whole
yes.
thing? We would get dressed. Like it was a whole thing. And then my mother and her boyfriend at the time, they were more foodies. So we would
Mhm.
explore more, but like I mean, we were kind of poor. But so the exploring was like Olive Garden, Texas Roadhouse. You know what I mean? It's still like the chain restaurants, but a little bit fancier. But going out to eat was a thing. Like I remember like we would get dressed up to go out to eat. It was an activity.
An affair,
Yeah,
and I think, honestly, I love the ritual of getting to do that as a kid, right? Because I feel like it sets the standard for how we get to indulge it as adults. I'm pulling out the fits, and
yeah,
especially this time where, with social media culture, we like to share, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with looking cute and being like, "Boom, here, world, you should see my outfit, you should see how I'm
exactly.
looking,"
And
you
being
know?
from like a place like Niagara Falls, which is so small, you just never know who you would see. Like I just knew I was gonna go outside and I might run into the guy that I got a crush on. Like it's just like a 50-50 shot. And he's never gonna catch me slipping. So I'm gonna I'm gonna get dressed. I'm gonna get
Absolutely.
dressed. Yeah.
Even growing up in New York City, sure, like, we would go out to eat in other boroughs every once in a while, but, like, if we were staying local for the most part, like, you don't know who's gonna see you. You do have to look right.
Or you're
Even
gonna
if you
hear
just
about
wanna
it
get a
in
slice of
school.
pizza. Yeah, 100%. In my adolescence, it was very much that. Once I was in middle school, even if I was going to the corner store to get a certain sandwich or whatever, I just needed to look right anytime I was dipping out. So let's move into our cheer section where we shout out dope people doing dope shit. I want to shout out Harlem 9 today just because we have collaborated in that space together, right? And collaboration with Harlem 9 that I was blessed to do was our 48 Hours in El Bronx at Pregones. And I just think Harlem 9 is such a special group. First of all, Obie winning, okay? Obie Award winning group. And also just the backbone to a lot of community projects and initiatives that really have allowed for us to take ownership of theater in a way that I think the industry within Broadway doesn't really make room for. Akin to like a Latinx playwright circle, right? Over the years, they've become such a deep staple that like put some respect on the name. Like it's really
Absolutely.
how I feel about Harlem 9. So it's a
Absolutely.
great organization, and I think everybody should check them out. If you haven't already, you should follow them whenever they do projects. Go out to see these shows and support. It is really a well thought out special place with some incredible, credible artists and incredible leaders who
Yeah.
some of which I know and love personally. I just wanted to shout them out today.
Yeah, no, shout out Harlem 9. I've had the privilege of being able to be an associate producer with them for the 48 Hours in the Bronx. And shout out to Eric Lockley who pulled me into the fold to begin with. And then, we also do Melanin Madness, which are interactive screenings, but it's always about Black and brown joy. I just love that they always put joy in the forefront. Also, the fact that they like publish the plays, like they are published in the series. And I think that's so special and important for the playwrights. I love how in service they are to the work and the process. So shout out to them.
Tell us, what's your shout out for today?
Yes, I have a lot of people on my mind, but I have to shout out Darkness Rising. This organization was founded by Carlita Victoria, who's also a performer in her own right as well and comes from has a theatrical background. And what they do is they provide therapy, sometimes free therapy to Black and brown people. They're known for their culturally competent Black and brown therapists.
Mm.
And that means that these therapists are informed about what it means to be justice impacted, trauma. They're specialized in Black and brown communities and like what we deal with on a daily basis, just from the struggle. Race is in everything, sadly. It is, so we can't ignore that. And really they're on my heart because they help me. Like I'm starting therapy this week actually through Darkness Rising, through their rebuild program where they give people who were either justice impacted or formerly incarcerated up to 10 free sessions. Yeah, so I've been able to benefit from that program because multiple of my family members have been incarcerated. My brother is currently incarcerated and I'm his go-to type of first in line in terms of giving him support and taking care of his assets and everything. So I was able to qualify through that. So shout out Darkness Rising.
That's incredible. Honestly, like while there are an abundance of mental health spaces, not every space is able to provide like actual sessions that are consistent. And you could do a lot with 10 sessions. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
and I, even myself as somebody who being in this creator economy as a solopreneur in the past 3 years, don't have health care. So I haven't been able to connect or tap into mental health professionals and things like that. And it does make a difference. And to anyone listening who's like, oh, yeah, well, I don't need therapy. Sometimes you don't want to wait until you think you need it to have it and to utilize it. Actually, therapy is also a form of prevention and
Yeah.
helping you just keep track and sort the things that are always racing through your mind that may be affecting you in ways that you're not consciously aware of, but to give yourself, once a week or bi-weekly and say, okay, I'm going to sit down with this other person who can bounce off these ideas is super important. So shout out to them for doing this work and for centering our community, especially in a time where a lot of people are struggling to connect to mental health services.
Yes. And they're about it. Like, because a lot of sometimes you'll see a Black led organization, but then you look look under the hood and it's very white. These are
Mhm.
Black and brown people, the staff, the founder, the therapist, like everyone involved. And I think that makes all the difference.
So let us move into our Tuta Loca es section where we call out motherfuckers who are doing the most.
Mm.
My dearest, dearest Broadway. They were never kidding when they said to work in Broadway is to have a labor of love because it's not a labor of money. And that is very much coming to the surface. So we are right now in the eve of Broadway musicians deciding whether or not they will or won't strike for new contracts. Artists will continue to work when contracts expire and things don't get renegotiated. And sometimes the people who hold that power get a little too comfortable with the ways in which artists are willing to show up because the show must go on. And
Yep.
so this wouldn't be the first time that a strike like this would happen. I believe one of the longest ones a few years ago was like 17 days long. And that was enough to sort of get them to be like, all right, because when Broadway goes dark, as much as people like to pretend that theater is corny or isn't that important or it's just for tourists, it's not true. You can really see how Broadway serves as an economy and a pulse in New York City. So when
Totally.
these artists decide you're not going to play about us and our money, then you start to see how important things are. And I hate that it has to take that level of resistance in order to be heard. And so while we are not musicians in Broadway, we
Mhm.
have the experience of understanding what struggles there are as being theater artists, trying to get your dues, and also even organizations that we work for, getting collaboration, having bridges built to this more lucrative part of the industry. It's hard and it's very discouraging. And sometimes it makes people give up on their dream because of the actual practices and behaviors of the Broadway industry. So I'm curious, do you have any gripes?
So many. I mean, I'm not gonna say that I'm one of those people who gave up on my dreams, but I definitely have decided that I'm interested in paving a road elsewhere that is not Broadway because I feel disenchanted. And also, like, I'm not hearing that y'all don't got the bread. Like,
Right.
stop playing. Stop playing.
Right.
We know you got the bread. You're just not giving it to us. And that's my biggest issue. And I think the term is like passion gap that we
Mm,
feel like the artists are we're filling that gap of that should be paid with our passion, with our love of the art, the fact that we've been drawn to this, right? A lot of people, this is spiritual. This is service work that we do
yes.
in a real way. So like feeling like I don't want to let other people down, like a lot of that we're filling that gap. But ultimately we still got to eat. We live in New York City too. And the thing is that I feel like we're taught that in the institutions. They set the groundwork. It's like similar to like the school to prison pipeline, but like the Broadway version is like you go to a theater school, they're going to teach you how to behave. You know what I mean? Like, so this is the box, make sure it's
Mhm.
nice and urban or whatever, wherever you fit. And this is how you proceed. And it's yes, and always leave yourself at the door. It's crazy. Like me reflecting back of all the lies and like the unlearning that I've had to do and the decolonizing of my mind and my body that happens in institutions, like it starts there.
The parts that a lot of people don't really get in the weeds of because they're not always sitting in these rooms is like Broadway producers. These can be the most random people. These could be business owners in tech, big companies, like people who have generational wealth and like come from families that have like big money and have been in New York for generations, like all sorts of people. I literally have seen conversations where people are like, "Hey, there's this new show. Anybody want in on this? This is how you can profit. It's a great show, and thus we think you can profit." And so when you start to see from that standpoint what fuels the industry, it's already backwards because sure, maybe a producer or two might have some passion behind the topic of the show, but they don't necessarily need to have that passion, but they're putting their money in. And it's great. We
Yeah.
want the money. But then the catch 22 is when certain decisions or things are happening for the production, if a producer has a particular kind of say, then that same producer who's like, yeah, I'm fine throwing my money at this, but is not aligned to the integrity and, to use your words, the spirituality of what the work is asking for, then
Hmm.
that's where we start to see the trickle down effects of what the integrity does, right? It's a lack.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've seen some shows this year, and I don't know if you've seen any Broadway shows this year that like caught your eye or like severely disappointed you, but I've had a little bit of both. Like I've had productions where I'm like, damn, like this show was supposed to be for our community and there's certain plot holes here. This could have been developed better. And I'm like, do I even want to name shows? Because I don't even want to
Right.
push no one down. You know what I mean? Especially when it's our people stuff. But then you get amazing examples, right, of things that work really well. And you're like, okay, this is great. And I want to point to, let's say, for example, Buena Vista Social Club is a show that is really beautiful. I haven't had a chance to see it on Broadway. I had a chance to see it when it was at the Atlantic, and I
Yes.
felt the vibration and the power, but the vibration of and power that was there is that of what Buena Vista Social Club put in their original music as artists when they were creating this work as resistance. And so I think part of what jazzes that show up is not the set. I mean, the actors and the dancers were phenomenal. I don't know how much of the original cast transferred over to Broadway, but like
Yeah.
there was all of that soul. It was a lot of ache, was a lot of other things that have nothing to do with the Broadway of it all. And then there are other shows that are for our communities that I've seen that I don't know, that soul's not there. Like the story is there, like we can see it, but that connection isn't there, and it's sort of leaning on celebrity or like namesakes to be like, yeah, this is amazing. Come see this because namesake, and we're not
Yeah.
getting what we need. And then disappointing because then if people don't feel that and those shows start to close, they continue to make the case that our work is not valuable to produce at that scale.
Yeah. I haven't seen Buena Vista yet. It's on my list. I'm going to see Liberation on Saturday. So I'm
Mm,
feeling good about that. I love Whitney White.
yeah,
So I feel
yeah,
really good about that. But I feel you. And I think what breaks my heart the most, like whether or not the show is doing what it's supposed to be doing for our people and really telling the story and has a soul or not, is it's not accessible to us anyway.
anyway.
You know, it's not like, you know how goddamn hard it took me to get. I'm only seeing Liberation because a homie gave me a comp. Like, you know what I mean? It's not even accessible. It's not even accessible to me. And that's another thing I reflect. And I'm like, do I feel like I missed the boat on Broadway? Like, if I would have stood the course and did the things and made, you know, the exceptions or whatever the case, would I be on Broadway? But it's like, performing and using my vessel and pouring my heart out to a sea of whiteness that probably can't even appreciate this. Like, I'd rather just do a free show at Marcus Garvey Park. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather do 48 hours. I'd rather go to PRTT, you know, and support that because our people ain't even seeing the work. As profound as it is, as beautiful as it is, they can't afford it,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And shout out
yeah.
to the pay what you can nights that do happen or like the Black theater nights and stuff. But even white people be at Black theater night. And I'm like,
All the
damn, read
time.
the room all the time. Read the room, read the rules.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. There is the power of just doing what you rather see rather than harping on what isn't working about an industry that is structured the way it's structured for a
yeah,
reason. And the economy that has been built around Broadway is not going to be easily broken. Like these producers, these billionaires, millionaires are not about to
yeah,
just, and sometimes they're not even like hardcore millionaires. They're not breaking, they're just breaking in the millions. But still, if they can get in on a show, they'll do it. And it's almost feels like collecting like infinity stones, like Thanos. Like there's some who are like,
so
I
true.
produced on this show and this show and this show and this show. And it's like they get all this pride, but like as a producer, what are you really doing and showing up as? Which in our community, like it's everybody's wearing so many hats that like you as an associate producer, even on that project, like sure you were an associate producer, but you were also in the room and like giving particular notes in a way that
Mhm.
was deep and rich and not just focused on the end result for money and being like,
Yeah,
oh, well, we're trying to give this particular vibe. So if you can change this line, or oof, we think this is going to be controversial and we don't want to lose money, as opposed to like, does the story need this? Is this serving? Like, there's just a difference in engagement when you're doing it from a place of care. And I feel like they just don't fully know what that feels like for every production. There's more productions than not that only know it through this like mechanical wheel. And so that's why you can taste it for artists like us who are in the shits. When we go, it's easier for us to see it. There may be somebody who comes from out of town and sees the show and still loves it because they don't get much of this theater at all. And so
yeah,
is there value in in these shows regardless? Sure. Are there hardworking artists getting up there every night, you know, dancing their ass off, singing their ass off, and doing even when the show is whack? Like sometimes you're like, this
still do
storyline
it.
makes sense to me, but that girl just sang the fuck out of that whack ass song.
Yup.
you know,
Found her
you know.
light. It was beautiful. At least for me, what drew me to getting into producing was because I'm an artist advocate and producers have so much power. Even down to like the rehearsal room, like the best compliment I ever had when I first got into producing was someone emailed me and just thanked me because they're like, oh, you ran such a lovely room, like audition room. You ran such a lovely room. I appreciate that you got back to me, even though I didn't get the role. But like, I appreciate that I heard something and thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's that simple. It's actually not hard to do. It just be intentional.
From your mouth to other fancy producers who we gonna say they're gonna hear this episode and
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
"Wow,
They
how can
always
I
listening.
how can I run a better room?" As simple as community care. We are moving into our plate of the day where we're going to discuss cannabis and wellness, two things that I think are super important and I
Yes.
enjoy very, very much. So you started Loud and Lifted, which
Yes.
congratulations on the launch of Loud and Lifted. But we are just in the beginnings of what this journey is going to be. And I would love to hear more about Loud and Lifted and what brought you to this work.
So Loud and Lifted, that's my baby, that's my business. The full title is Loud and Lifted Consulting. We've been pivoting of what we're doing, but consulting kind of just covers the groundwork. But me and my business partner Justin Sullivan, we used to work at a dispensary together. So a dispensary downtown. I won't even name it because they're not about to get clout off of me. But we worked at a really well-known dispensary downtown on Bowery, and we ran the hell out of that place. Like,
Mhm.
we made them a lot of money. By the end of my tenure there, I was there for 2 years, and I was the general manager for, like, 6 or 8 months before I transferred and just decided to do my own thing. But went from supervisor, manager to general manager, brought Justin on as my assistant manager, and we made $7 million in that time
Whoa.
together. Yeah. We hired an entirely kinda, like, new staff because they were expanding. We trained the hell out of that staff. People were having fun at work. Like, we really created a really good culture there. And all of this time, his family also has a license. They received a license to open their own dispensary.
Mm.
So that's gonna be in Harlem on 132nd and 8th Avenue. And the building, yeah, yeah. So we're not open yet. His family has had this license. And we decided like we're gonna run that shit. Like, we have all the tools we needed. We treated that former dispensary as a boot camp. Learn all we need to learn, meet all the people we need to meet, really get fine tune our management skills and our operational stuff and our financial stuff. And we're gonna do it ourselves because we have this license, we have this opportunity. So this building where we'll be having the dispensary has been in Justin's family, I believe, since 1964. His grandfather bought this building, opened a barber shop, which also operated as a speakeasy. So behind the barber shop, you can, do your thing, smoke a little bit, whatever. But it's known like artists from the Apollo, people would perform and they would know to go to Joe's barbershop on
Mm.
132nd to get that wine down, that nightcap. So the fact that we get to do it legally, like, we're gonna keep the same vibe. Like, we're gonna have that like nostalgic barbershop vibe, and in the back is gonna be the dispensary. It's just legal now. So it's all about Black legacy. It's all about preserving Harlem, preserving the history of Harlem, being a third space, a vibe, giving people opportunity, jobs, education. It's just so expansive. And because him and I are both creatives too, like, we have so many ideas for the kind of like skits we want to do and just like creative events. Like, we want to have events. We want to do a lot of things. So the business covers a lot. But right now we are in the phase of getting these damn permits approved. If New York just like, come on, gives us a little wiggle. But once we get our permit, it's boots on the ground, and we're gonna start the demolition process, the build out process, and then open up.
Uh, I love that. Congratulations. That
Yeah.
is a
Thank you.
major feat, especially in a city like New York. So as you know, I'm between New York City and Denver, Colorado, and it's interesting to be in a city like Denver because it was one of the first states who had like full legality alongside with Washington State. And so to see how people have found both like fun third space ways to create cannabis intersections. So there's a place out here called Tetra Lounge, which is Black owned, and it's a co-working
Yes.
space, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, yes, we need co-working spaces. There's a lot of Black and brown entrepreneurs, even though you don't have to be Black and brown to join in any way, shape, or form, just to say that, like, you know, they have their intentions, they set it, and then they hold space and cast that wide net, but they're proof that it's okay to really uplift and amplify the voices and the people who have been in the shadows and have been on the other side of harm of cannabis once
Mhm.
upon a time, and then flip it on
Absolutely.
its head and be like, talk about hustle culture and drug dealing, quote unquote. Like, we got hustlers of all kinds sitting under one roof, smoking and getting work done. You
Absolutely.
know?
Right. Exactly.
Which I love, and so this concept of the barber shop, I think especially for Harlem, there's something that feels so classic about it
Yeah.
that I really appreciate,
Yeah.
and I think that is a further amplification of your love and amplification of third spaces, because we have lost over the years some of those spaces where we can say, "Yeah, you're at the barbershop, you might not be getting a cut, but you're at the barbershop,"
Right.
right? And so I'm excited to see what's gonna come of that. I'd love to dig a little bit more into the intersections of cannabis and what I like to call your soul work, right? So we're all here on a particular path and we have all of these hustles and things that we talk about, but there's something at the heart center that calls us to this work. And it feels like at the heart center of your cannabis work is a similarity to the heart center of your creative work in general outside of the cannabis industry. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about where you see cannabis and wellness intersect with your soul work the most.
Ooh, that's good. I think it goes back to how I said, like, I was raised by a village. I want to make a village. I want to go back to tribalism. I want to go back to having community, like actually people that you know, and you're not just walking past your neighbors, you know their names. I think that's so important. And that's where I see that the intersection is always about bringing people together. How can we bring people together and uplift each other? That's always important in all of my work that I do. And in cannabis, I feel like it's so easy because I finally found like I found the thing that allows me to do all of the things that I love because I do so much shit. And like cannabis is the foil now. And it kind of feels like a birthright because like my grandmother is from, well, she was born in Puerto Rico, but she grew up in New York City, 106 in Columbus, and was a hustler. She was. She was 5 foot nothing and put the fear of God in any man. Truly, truly. And like I come, like my family comes from the streets. My family's have been justice impacted. Like almost my mother, my father, my grandmother, they've all faced incarceration in some shape or form. Right. So that's very important to me. So it also feels like reclaiming that, breaking this generational curse of like being demonized for providing medicine to people. You know, like this is ancestral medicine as well. So that, yeah, that's what really drives me. I feel like I'm in service to my ancestors. I feel like I'm in service to the future because I'm going to be an ancestor. I want to be able to reclaim cannabis. I want to destigmatize it, and I want it to be ours because at least in New York City right now, these billionaire fingers, man, these greasy fingers
Mm,
are getting in there. And it's like, you the same chick that would have called the cops on me if I was smoking outside your building 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And
mhm.
now, you know what I mean? Now you want me to push your work.
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
nah, I'm not down with that.
I love that you're naming that so specifically because it also speaks to the animal medicine that came through for our conversation today. For every plate of the day, I pull an animal medicine card to help us focus and guide the conversation through the wisdom of the cosmos through the animals. And we got the owl, and the owl, I mean, across traditions has so many meanings. But in this particular case, the owl medicine came forward with a message of deception. And not that we are deceiving anyone, if not, that deception does not easily find us because we really tap into our intuition and discern things, right? And make sure that we are in constant investigation of the integrity of something, the alignment of something. And you sort of started to touch on this already when you talked about the little billionaire fingers that start to touch everything. We know that there was a lot of conversation around, yes, legalization and how is that going to help formerly incarcerated people and people who have been in and out of the justice system because of the state of weed legalization. But I don't know, like, I feel like the amping up and how they put that at the forefront of the conversation when they were trying to pass legalization in New York and the actual manifestation of things that feel like they are directly serving the justice isn't as visible. I won't say it doesn't exist because I am not in the industry enough to be like, oh, it's not happening. I'm sure it's happening in spaces, but it seems like the bigger things that are put in my face are the things that are these larger dispensaries or larger weed brands, right? Where they're sucking up so much of the air that I don't know that a lot of these entrepreneurs or people who have come from the intersection of having a different relationship with cannabis that they were punished for, that they are actually getting the real fruit of the labor that was, they use their story to help push this forward in such a big way. And I'm not seeing that justice necessarily. And on another note, I was listening to a different podcast that was talking about weed and actually how they test the weed and how now there's actually certain chemicals that certain growers are using and pesticides and things that aren't being properly vetted. And because it is not federally legalized yet, like a lot of people can get away with stuff. And it just like it makes the echo of something that an elder said to me when we were pushing for weed legalization in New York, where he said, well, they could legalize it, but I'm not buying that shit. And I was like, well, why not? Like, we're going to have dispensaries from people. And he's like, I don't trust nothing. If the federal government or if anybody says it's legal, that means that they fucking with it in some way. And I don't want to put in my lungs what these motherfuckers are fucking with. Cause down the line, we gonna hear stories. And I remember being like, oh, that feels a little bit negative. Maybe that's not the case. And so hearing that podcast literally yesterday, I was like, huh, there are people who are going to doctors and like trying to figure out like health issues and can't figure it out and then test cannabis and figure out that there's something in the actual cannabis that's affecting them. So you have the billionaires getting away with harm yet again, but also taking up the air from spaces where I know there are Black farmers and people who are
Yeah.
really hands on and brown as well, right? But like, yeah, I don't know. From my perspective as someone who's not in the industry, something's up. And I feel like they're trying to deceive us, but for a lot of us, they can't quite get away with it. So I'd love to
Yeah.
hear from your perspective, am I touching on something here or am I bugging?
Touching on everything. You're touching on all of the things. The owl knows the owl is right, but you can't get past me.
Yeah.
So it's where do I start? Where do I start? In terms of the rollout of it, and this is my opinion, this is how I feel. People may feel differently, but I feel that they dropped the ball. So I had heard someone say, a Caucasian person said in a space, like a white person with money that was trying to get into the industry and had gripes about these equity licenses because equity licenses were awarded to people who are justice impacted. And essentially what was said was, yeah, it's like giving somebody without a driver's license a Lamborghini. They're gonna crash the car. And we're just waiting for them to crash. So, deception, absolutely. And it's true because when you think about it, I'm sitting here looking at the way things were rolled out. And it's like, okay, let's say it's me, right? I'm just coming out of jail. I used to hustle in the streets, whatever, boom, 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 whatever the case may be, peddle weed. Now I have a license. They've given me a license because of this. They haven't given me no business courses.
Mm.
I don't have no brick and mortar. I don't like where do I open this space, right? I don't have I don't know how to even start to think about regulations
Mhm.
and compliance with OCM because it's a controlled substance. So like the compliance and regulations, the book is this thick, right? So understanding that, they haven't really broke that down to me. So I don't even know if I'm in compliance or not. So it's like, yeah, I gave you the car, I gave you nothing else. I gave you this paper, I gave you nothing else. So then what happens is now I have this license. And now you have these people, these billionaires coming and buying the licenses because they have the
Mm.
bread. So they either buy your license outright for what feels like a substantial amount of money, let's say $100,000 or something like that, $200,000, which is substantial to you in that moment. It is substantial. It's pennies on the dollar to them. And it's pennies on the dollar on what you would have made if you were able to open a dispensary in the first place. You feel me? So it's this cycle. It's this cycle. So then they end up, these people sell their licenses and now they're in the hands of people who don't give a fuck, ultimately, who really don't care. They're trying to
Yeah.
make the money. And then as you have consumption coming in too, like you have people like AMC, Regal already trying to put their hands in like what's going to be consumption when things go federal. So things are going to go federal because you have those kind of companies already figuring out like, oh, what we going to do at the movie theater, infuse popcorn. Like we know that big money's coming. We know
Yo,
it's coming because this is our prohibition.
it's just funny because I didn't just to hear AMC, because when you said AMC Regal in my head, I was like, does she mean the theaters? And you absolutely did. And
Yes.
it's true. Like it's everybody jumping on a bandwagon to be able to make some money. And when the goal is to make some money, and I have to believe it's to make some money because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Julissa, New York City, New York State, but New York City, let's be real. New York State, we almost did $1 billion cannabis last
Yeah,
year, and it's
yeah.
projected to like double. New York State has the most cannabis use of any state in the country. And when they roll out consumption, because that's not even out here yet, like where you can consume legally, that's not even out rolled out yet. It's
Yeah.
over. And this ain't LA. We not hiking. You know what I mean? We ain't smoking outside. We need somewhere to go. It's cold.
I hear that and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So AMC and Regal get to already be at tables and having conversations because of their status. But like, I'm not always going to the movie theaters. Like, are the people who are going to create the local spot in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, in Harlem, like, are y'all already being brought into the conversations of like,
No.
hey, you're already figuring out the logistics of setting up a dispensary, period. The idea that there may be these other things coming down the line, how easy or difficult is it to be on the front lines of saying, like, if we know consumption is going to be legal soon, how are you guys going to be able to get into that game? Or is money and the cost of licenses and things like that going to immediately start to prohibit you guys to really and fully realize a vision that you guys may have for holding that third space for the smokers?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you say that because it recently, like this past month, OCM, so the OCM is the Office of Cannabis Management. And I won't say too much because I don't want to have beef with y'all. I just want to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
open. But they are responsible for creating the regulations and the compliance and the rollout for all of it, whether it's a like a license to do a dispensary license or a production license that you're creating or growing a grower's license, things like that. They handle all of that. And they've had a regime change.
Mm,
They've had a regime change. I'll say that. So the homies that we had in there before are no longer there.
mm.
And things are looking very, very different. And they've recently kind of put how do I say this? A hard line on events. Because right now it's gray. It's been gray. Like legally, you cannot consume cannabis in a dispensary. You cannot, right? But it was very gray about like, okay, so what if I have a block party outside? Or what if we just have like some festivals and give out samples and like different things like that? And now, and no shade to them because they deserve it, but like now you got like the celebrities opening the dispensaries. Like the Styles P just opened a dispensary. You have Dynasty Commodities in Harlem, and that's Rich, who's involved with Fat Joe and Terror Squad and stuff. Like, and they've been loud and unabashedly smoking around these spaces, in these spaces, and they done made it hot. I ain't gonna lie, y'all made it hot. Y'all made it hot. So now OCM's like, no more events until we roll out
Mm,
consumption. No more, like, you can't, no more samples. You can't give out samples. You can't host events that are not around education, right? If it's not educational, you can't do it. You're only allowed to give people water. You can't even have food. You can't give out food. You can't do this. You can't do that. So now they really like put their foot on our neck because
Jesus.
this last year we was turning up. But it's because we was turning up and ultimately it was the black and brown people. We was lit. Our events was
Yeah.
lit. Our events was full. And people were feeling left out. You know,
Mhm.
they were feeling left out the party. They were feeling left out the money, out the bread. They was like, we didn't know y'all was gonna make
Yeah.
that much money. Hold on, slow down. Slow down, slow down, slow down. You know? So
Yeah.
that's what I feel is happening. That's what's happening right now. So I'm curious to see. I don't know, but I'm curious to see how they roll out consumption. But I know that they're not listening to us in terms of how they roll it out.
Yeah. The hater energy is also giving very, y'all don't need these Harvard Business School degrees
Hmm.
to really create a business model around authentic connection. Because, like you said, we grew up in these streets or have been adjacent to these streets and the culture. And, like, yes, there have been a lot of conversations around how, that culture was once upon a time harmful in our communities and blah, blah, blah. But like, the way cannabis has changed in its narrative throughout the country has also
Mhm.
found its to these same streets, right? Where cannabis is no longer the big bad wolf, or I mean, well, if you ask an abuela or my mom, they'll still say this is the devil's
My
lettuce
mom too.
and like us all, and you know what I mean? But even that, right? This idea that to give us license, or rather, we want to be able to take license to fully transform the narrative around this plant and this medicine in our community. And we're constantly being blocked. And so
Yeah,
I hate that. I hate to hear that that's how it's working, but it is no surprise to me that that is how it's working. And of
yeah.
course, when we want something culturally relevant, they'll probably want to sit across Styles P before they'll want to sit across a
Right.
smaller name.
Yeah,
But if we're thinking about community care and engagement and, again, third spaces, like, the idea should be, well, even if there's a favorite, right, for whatever other business connections, do we really believe in the cause of creating these spaces for good? So how are we creating space or a system where you
yeah,
all can move quickly, resourced, and supported with
yes.
the educational pieces there, right? You don't need a business degree to really figure it all out. At the end of the day, I feel like what you learn is what you thought you needed was a business degree, but what you really needed was a law degree because that's where the gymnastics really live.
Right, right. Yeah. And I mean, and running the business as a whole is a whole other thing. It's a lot of pieces. It's a lot of pieces, but I think that's why we need to be able to get together and learn, right? Like, what have we learned? What have we learned thus far? Okay, let's get together. Let's re-strategize. Like all the dispensaries in Harlem, shout out to y'all. Like, how can we actually build a hub together? You know what I mean? Like, I'm so looking forward to opening so that we can really start to partner with other people, with other businesses, with other communities, with people within our community, rather. And yeah, I just feel like we're gonna make significant changes in the industry that I'm excited about. Like good trouble, good
Yeah,
trouble's coming. I feel,
yeah.
yeah, I'm excited about that.
We need a lot more Good Trouble, and in alignment with Good Trouble, what words of advice do you have for anybody who has been considering getting into the cannabis industry, whether that is a dispensary, whether that's them saying, "I make really good baked goods and I should be selling edibles." Like, you know what I mean? Like, people who are trying to go back to the age-old hustle of it all, but want to do so through the legal system rather than the black market.
Yeah. I will say when it comes to it's a big expense. Like if you're trying to open a dispensary or if you're trying to on your own get a license to produce, it's a big expense. I would say partner where you can,
Mhm.
right? Like, let me think. Okay, there's a girl named Wolf, Stoner Wolf, and she rolls these big, beautiful pre-rolls, these elaborate filters, like they're beautiful. They're like big cigar size and it's just very pretty. And she partners with brands like let's say Dank or another flower brand. And when they do events, she has a rolling bar there. She don't need no
Mhm.
license for that. She don't need, you know what I mean? She don't gotta do nothing but show up with her materials, set up her little table, and make some bread. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, not to say, and that's not great. She's not breaking any laws. She's just rolling dope joints for people at the party. You know what I mean? So, like, finding different ways to partner and different avenues that aren't gonna cost you so much money up front. Because you're gonna, you have some like $100,000 to spend. Go ahead, open a dispensary. Go for it. Other than that, like I would find avenues in and learn all you can. That's another thing that like I really pride myself on and I do appreciate about the last dispensary that I worked at was how we were so passionate about education. A lot of
Mhm.
times I go to these dispensaries and people are either lying their ass off because they don't know what they're talking about and they think I don't know what they think I don't know anything. Right? So they're just saying whatever. And I'm like, oh, yeah, interesting. Okay, because I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go. And I'm gonna say one thing that you're not gonna be able to sleep at night because I'm gonna get you with one word. But you have to be educated. Learn about the plant. It's like a fine wine. There's so many interesting things about it. And just to circle back to what you had said about the weed being like a government scam or somebody saying that about the potency and what's in it. I do feel like stuff is over infused. The most
Mm,
THC does not mean the best high. Learn about terpenes. Learn about your endocannabinoid system. Now I'm using big words, right?
yeah.
But like learn about how your body will interact with different parts of the plant and then go towards those things. Learn about your CBD, CBC, CBN, like whatever. I can go on a tangent, but really take it seriously, like learn because the more you know, learn about that and then learn about the business. Cause that's another
Yes.
thing that is adjacent to acting is like, yeah, I know the craft down, but they didn't teach me the business.
Mhm.
So learn your craft and learn the business and find
Yeah.
where your skills will where your skills coincide and where you can partner with people. Cause I think partnerships are huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my advice. Yeah.
I love that, especially that partnership piece because it's like I used to work with teenagers for like over a decade of my life, and
Hmm.
I always had the students who were like, "Yeah, well, I'm trying to be in the NBA," and I'm like, You'll never catch me saying that you won't make it in the NBA." But there's a lot of things that can happen between now and you graduating college and going into the NBA, including injuries. So if
Yeah.
that were to happen, what would you do in order to be there, right? And here in the case of cannabis, it's like, okay, you want to be in the industry. You might not get the gold, what you may consider the gold standard of being in the industry, but what other talents and skills do you have? These businesses
Mhm.
need marketers, they need
Yes.
accountants, they need all of the different intersections. And so you do love cannabis and you're like, yeah, I want to be in the shits. Like I don't want to work towards
You a
anything else
graphic
that
designer?
right.
Packaging. Yeah, all that.
And so I feel like people sometimes don't necessarily think outside of the box in that way. And so, yeah, if you have a talent or a skill that might not be cannabis direct, but can support a cannabis business, go for it. Like, figure that out. And I think what you said still rings true, but still learn about the plant, still really be well studied because then what you can offer can come from such a elevated place that it'll be the thing that makes you stand out versus other people who do what you do and might want that position. So I love this. Thank you so, so much for sharing your knowledge with us today. And tell us, where can we find you? How can we continue to support this work?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Dolores Did It, Dolores Did It. And I want to shout out really quickly my other business, which is
Yes.
also cannabis adjacent, but I do have a podcast with the legendary half pint legend, aka Denise Manning, my business partner, my sister, also big in the theater, but also big in cannabis. That girl knows her stuff. We have a podcast called D&D, We the New Aunties Now. And it really is that Titi energy. Like, you're going to come, we're going to give you some advice. We're going to leave you with a laugh. We're going to take care of you, like come run away with us. Put your phone on D&D, come run away with your Titis and let's have a time. Like, that's the vibe of the podcast. And yeah, we've had some wonderful guests. We're in pre-production. It's not released yet. It's coming very, very soon. But we're working on season 1 right now. And we've had wonderful guests already. Like, we've had different topics like elevate your spirituality, elevate your pleasure, elevate your community service, right? And then we also incorporate how cannabis can help you in those elevations and giving you knowledge so that you can advocate for yourself. So you're not just getting the thing that has 86% THC infused with diamonds outside keef with a you don't need all that. You don't if you want it, you can have it. However, you don't need all that. We're going to
Yeah.
teach you how to
Yeah.
advocate for yourself and get what you need. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dolores, for being with us here today. And you can find us at Ladies Who Bronche across all platforms. And until next time, bronche.